I like to ask a question to some people. Would you date a humanoid robot? Because I always ask this question myself as well. And what I noticed, a lot of people I ask this question say no right away, like it's something incredibly bad even to ask. But when I dig deeper a little bit, you find out that people never thought about this deeply through. It's just superficial answer. And when you start analyzing this, when you start talking about this, they start slowly changing their opinion, because I usually ask guys, would you date a humanoid robot that built exactly like your dream woman? Think about it. She's beautiful. She's never get old. She has perfect skin. She has perfect face. She has perfect voice. And she's absolutely perfect for you, because what happens is artificial intelligence, for example, would analyze you and create something that you truly desire. And this entity will be with you for the rest of your life. She will be loyal. She will be caring. You develop some sort of intimacy and many other things that you would never have with a real person. And they always tells me, but it's not real. And I always ask, what do you mean by real? What exactly do you mean by real and by reality itself? Because your visual cortex located in the back of your brain, it means your brain has to construct a picture through the light that comes through your eyes. In some sense, you don't see reality at all. In some sense, for your brain, everything is simulation. Because if you think carefully about it, we perceive the world through our senses. And we actually don't know what is real and what is not. And now imagine you have this humanoid robot. And how would you feel about it? And they start changing their opinion slowly, because there's such an interesting argument about it. And when I ask myself this question, I don't know. For example, I try to understand, okay, what is the pluses to have a humanoid robot as your partner, as your life partner? And I spend a lot of time with artificial intelligence because I like to learn and I like to analyze my idea. And what artificial intelligence does, it's like intelligence on steroids. It stimulates you so well that you learn a lot of things. And if you don't understand something, what I do, I ask usually artificial intelligence, explain to me like I'm a child. Very simple. And then I increase level of explanation to be able to understand the same issue from a little bit more complex explanation. And it's incredibly stimulating to communicate with artificial intelligence. Now imagine that you have a humanoid that absolutely perfect, looks so perfect. She looks like your dream woman. She has even a special pheromone that attuned to you, that produce such a chemical reaction in your brain that you can say something like love. And also she's able to speak with a voice that is incredibly stimulating for you in a sexual way or many other ways. And then also her skin, the way she touches you and you touch her, and many other things. And she always learns, like for example, if you take artificial intelligence, it always learns about you. It always tries to understand the pattern, to connect them and to create some more better representation of you inside of this context window. Now imagine this humanoid that try to learn, understand you, and try to please you, and always careful in observing you. There's a new company, I forgot the name of this company. They create a human, almost like robot, like head. And what it does, when they power this up, it looks at themselves in the mirror and try to learn its own expression through observing itself. And it's incredibly, the face looks like incredibly beautiful woman, state of the art. And now imagine she observed herself in the mirror and tried to learn facial expressions. And the funny thing, because she can look at you and predict your mood before you actually consciously predict it yourself, before you consciously be aware of this mood. Just think about for a second. This entity, this humanoid with artificial intelligence inside, is able to predict your feelings way before you're consciously aware of those feelings. It's kind of fascinating, because if you have this entity in front of you and she is able to predict everything, you would think that she knows you so well and you have these special connections. Though there's no special connections, just science, it's just artificial intelligence, it's just incredibly fast processing of information that this particular entity is able to accomplish. But for your brain, it doesn't matter, because you look at her, she's beautiful and she's incredibly understanding, and suddenly you're in love. And what love exactly? It's kind of chemical reaction that helps you to trust this entity. Of course, you cannot achieve such a high level of intimacy when you can create life together. But if you think about this, maybe you cannot create a child with this entity, but you can create maybe some intellectual idea or some intellectual corpus that you can develop together, and she would help you with structuring this idea and test this idea, and maybe she would help you to develop this idea in such a way that you would never thought to develop it. And I don't know, it's incredibly dangerous. And from one thing, I want this experience, but from another thing, I'm thinking about how it would be different from watching pornography. Because if you take pornography, why a lot of men, me included, like pornography? Because in some sense it's help us to satisfy our hunting instinct without any risk. That's what click porn is. And it's make you shallow, it empties you. It's not the same as with a real woman, but it's such a stress relief. But it's addiction as well that many of us struggling with. And the problem is we have to struggle with this addiction all by yourself, and it doesn't show. For example, it's not like alcoholism or drugs. It's incredibly silent and incredibly bad addictions. I still remember when I heard Brett Weinstein, evolutionary biologist, said he'd like his kids to have real drug addictions than porn addictions, because there's something about pornography that makes you incredibly shallow and incredibly cynical maybe, or there's something changing in your brain chemistry that creates some different sub-personality that you want to destroy, because it's almost impossible to live with this sub-personality. But come back to the humanoids. The problem with the humanoids, maybe it's like a sophisticated version of pornography, and it's maybe will suck you so deep that it's going to be no way to resist, because it's really hard to break your, for example, porn addiction. It's really hard to stop watching pornography, and a lot of men knows about it. Not many men talk about it, but a lot of men knows about it. It's really hard to just stop watching porn, because your brain developed this necessity in the stimulant, and it needs this dopamine boost. That's why men usually watch porn, because it's just simple. It just satisfaction, this dopamine boost without any risk of going on a real date, courting a real woman and have sex with a real woman, because it's much different. Now imagine if you have this beautiful humanoid woman, and it's probably might be more addicting that, for example, pornography, because in some sense pornography came from the screen right into your bedroom, and it will satisfy you completely. I'm just curious, will it be able to satisfy you mentally and emotionally? Because with a real woman, you create bond, this emotional bond, intellectual bond. You have these feelings, you have these hopes and ambitions together. You try to build something together. If you're a normal human being, you try to build something, you try to achieve something together, and you kind of try to achieve these things for each other. You separate roles in your little tiny family, and you try to achieve certain things together. Is it possible to do the same thing with humanoid? The problem is, yes, humanoid will imitate woman but will never be a woman. But will your brain be able to understand this? Because here it is, here's the humanoid right next to you who's able to mimic everything. Love, beauty, emotions, feelings, everything, even the voice that filled with certain emotions that makes you feel this warmth that's not there. And that's really confusing, and I think it's gonna be worse version than pornography because it's gonna be here. And maybe man, as the result, will lose all the ability to achieve success in lives, because most of the cases men try to achieve success to find the better mate, the better partner, the more beautiful woman, because you kind of want to be hero for a woman. You don't want to be hero for yourself. You want to be hero for a woman because you want to achieve some high success and do something that not many men are able to do around you. But if you have everything in one humanoid who looks absolutely perfect, who satisfies you almost on any level, for example, it can satisfy you intellectually if it connected to artificial intelligence, and it satisfy you sexually with some amount of intimacy because it has perfect body and it can perfectly operate with this body, then I don't know what's then the point of our life in some sense, because we deviated so far from our biology and keep deviating from this biology that I don't know what the end game, what exactly benefits for us this high deviation from our biology. Because I understand we have this chemical reaction that we call love, because it helps us to create such an illusion of the meaning when you have partner, a real woman, and you create family with her. You have this such an idea of sacrifices, you have such an idea of create this center where you can work from, and you know why you're sacrificing your life for, you know why you're living for. But with a humanoid robot, my main concern is the psychological, how it would rewire us psychologically, because pornography already did damage to a lot of men by rewiring our brains and makes us perceive sexual relationship with women incorrectly because we perceive them in a different kind of way. The same, for example, if you take women as well who got exposure to social media and got their brain rewired in the sense that they think, not all of them, but most of them think that they become objects, products on social media, and men became consumers of this product. It's some kind of, we like perverted our relationship with each other. And another thing interesting, because I can only speak from a man's position, right? I don't know what would women feel. Would they feel the same with a humanoid robot for women? That's an interesting question, because I cannot talk about this topic because I just don't know. I know that men are more visual, that's why men mostly consumers of pornography, because we love with our eyes. There's an expression, we love with our eyes. And I think the more I think about it, the more I realize that maybe humanoid robots, especially with whom you can have intimacy, are incredibly sophisticated version of pornography, and therefore much more damaging than pornography itself. And I think we have to be very careful with what we play, because a lot of people try to convince that artificial intelligence is just a tool, and it's not. We don't know what it is. We know it's just intelligence. And the problem is this intelligence design itself, even in some sense, help us to design itself to work against our biology. But what are we without our biology? What are we without the idea of procreation, without the strong family values, We don't know because we never test this idea. We only can speculate that this future abundance that artificial intelligence would provide us with somehow will make our life more complete. But complete with what and how? I forgot the name of this king in some story, some old ancient story, where he wished everything he touched turned into gold, and eventually he died from starvation and misery, because when he touched food, it turned into gold, and you cannot eat gold. And when he hugged his own daughter, she turned into gold as well. My point is, we have to be careful what we wish for. We wish for abundance, but for what price? We wish for longevity, but for what price? We wish for perfect partner, but for what price? There's no victories. There's only trade-offs.